All right, number 2 on the constructed response. The amount of time it takes to build a road varies inversely with the number of workers building the road. Suppose it takes 50 workers 8 months to build the road. All right, well, varies inversely. First off, let's talk about direct and indirect. So direct variation is y equals kx, and then inverse variation is going to be y equals, it's the inverse of direct, so these are multiplying, so here we just divide them, so k over x. So this is inversely, so we're going to use this one. And it says the amount of time, so this is time, varies inversely, so with the number of workers, so x is going to be the number of workers. So I just plug in for my time, I'm going to plug in, our time is 8 months. So it's going to be 8 equals k over the number of workers we said was our x, so 50 goes on the bottom. And I want to solve for k, so I'm going to multiply by 50, and 8 times 50 is 400. So our constant of variation is 400. Now for the second part, I'll just label these 1, 2, and 3. For the second part, write an equation that could be used to determine how long it would take n workers to build the road. Well, n workers, we called workers before our x, so in other words, we need to call that our n. So instead of saying y over k of x, I need to say for workers, I need to make that x and n. And it says write an equation. Okay, so we know our constant. I'm going to plug in for our constant. Our constant is 400. We just solved for that. So now we can plug in whatever we have. It says n workers. We can plug in any number for n, do 400 divided by that number, and that will give us our time y. So that can be our equation there. Y equals 400 over n, where that's the time in months. And I'll just label this out. So y equals the time in months. And n equals the number of workers. That's for number 2. And the reason I did this part here is because it says to define the variables. So you always need to say what they represent. So you will lose some points if you don't do that. Okay, number 3, how much faster would 60 workers build the road than 50 workers? Well, look at our equation we have set up. All we have to do is plug in the number of workers into our equation. So for number 3, I'm just going to say, for instance, y equals 400 over, it says 60 workers. And I'm going to divide that out. And I get that it's 6.6 repeating, or 6 2/3 months. And then I can plug in the other one, so maybe I'll use a different number for what I'm plugging in. I'm plugging in with the red for my number of workers. So y equals 400 over, this time I'm going to plug in a 50. And that one's exactly 8. So we get, or 8 months. And it didn't just ask for the numbers, it says how much faster, so that tells us we do need to subtract. 60 workers is 6 2/3 months, and how much faster is that than 8 months? Well, we just need to do 8 minus 6 2/3. In other words, 8 is just like 7 3/3. So 7 3/3 minus 6 2/3 gives us 1 1/3 months. You could also do this as a percentage if you wanted, the amount of change divided by the original amount. But I like that way the best. So 1 1/3 months.